The skies darkened over every major city on Earth as the Galactic Dominion ships descended. They didn't arrive with the subtlety of science fiction stealth ships or the gradual encroachment of an exploratory fleet. No, they came like harbingers of inevitability, dominating the skies with their massive, pulsating vessels. Each ship resembled a living entity, with its organic curves and glowing crystalline protrusions that seemed to pulse with life. To human eyes, it was as though the heavens themselves had grown veins and muscles, stretching their biomechanical forms across the horizon. For days before the invasion, astronomers had detected anomalies, strange distortions in space, sudden gravitational fluctuations, and signals that defied human understanding. But by the time the first Dominion ship pierced the Earth's atmosphere, it was too late to prepare. Cities like New York, Tokyo, London, and Cairo were thrown into chaos. Streets clogged with panicked civilians desperate to flee, while governments scrambled to respond. Earth's militaries quickly mobilized, bringing out everything they had: jets, tanks, artillery, and the latest in modern weaponry. Soldiers filled the streets, their faces a mix of determination and fear as they stared up at the alien behemoths hanging silently above them. The first message came 3 hours after the ships stabilized in their positions. It wasn't transmitted over human radio frequencies or television networks, but instead directly into the minds of every person on Earth. The voice was cold and clinical, devoid of malice but brimming with authority. People of Earth, it began, we are the Galactic Dominion. We come not as conquerors, but as liberators. Your planet is primitive, your weapons outdated, your societies fractured. Under our rule, you will prosper, resist, and you will be extinguished. The message sparked outrage. On news channels and social media, debates raged between those advocating surrender to avoid annihilation and those insisting humanity should fight no matter the odds. The leaders of Earth chose the latter. Calls for resistance echoed from the United Nations and world capitals. The line was drawn. Humanity would not kneel without a fight. The Dominion's response to humanity's defiance was swift and calculated. Within hours, their ground forces deployed. Soldiers descended in pods that landed with earth-shaking impact. When the pods opened, the beings that emerged were nothing short of terrifying. Towering over humans, the Dominion soldiers were encased in exosuits that gleamed with a liquid-like sheen. These suits seemed alive, pulsating and shifting as though responding to their wearers' thoughts. The aliens themselves were tall and slender, their elongated limbs and silver, reflective skin giving them an otherworldly grace. Their faces were devoid of mouths, their communication entirely telepathic. Their weapons, too, were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Guns that emitted concentrated beams of energy, crystalline blades that sliced through steel like butter, and drones that hovered silently, scanning the battlefield with eerie precision. To the Dominion, this wasn't war. It was a demonstration. The first engagements were catastrophes for humanity. In the deserts of Nevada, an armored column of tanks fired at an advancing Dominion platoon. The shells exploded harmlessly against their shields, which shimmered briefly with golden light, before absorbing the impact entirely. The aliens retaliated with a single strike, a beam of energy that left nothing but a smoking crater where the tanks had once been. In the skies above Europe, squadrons of fighter jets screamed toward the invaders, firing missiles with pinpoint accuracy. But the Dominion's technology rendered them obsolete. The missiles were intercepted mid-air by autonomous drones or detonated harmlessly against the impenetrable barriers surrounding the alien ships. Yet the most demoralizing blow came not from the battles, but from the Dominion's attitude. They didn't see humanity as a worthy adversary. In intercepted transmissions, their soldiers referred to Earth's weapons as relics and toys. Videos leaked to underground networks showed Dominion soldiers laughing, though their laughter was an unsettling telepathic sensation, while examining captured rifles and pistols. One clip, viewed millions of times, featured a Dominion commander holding an assault rifle with 2 fingers, as though it were a piece of garbage. The alien muttered something in its native tongue, translated by human technology as, "Their most advanced tools are metal sticks that throw stones." The mocking didn't end with the soldiers. Dominion broadcasts across occupied territories reinforced the narrative that humanity was inferior. Holographic projections displayed comparisons of their weapons with ours, always accompanied by condescending commentary. "To resist is to waste your lives," one broadcast proclaimed, showing footage of a Dominion drone effortlessly disabling a human artillery unit. "Lay down your weapons and you will live. Persist and you will be erased." But despite the hopelessness of the situation, humanity did not surrender. Across the globe, acts of defiance erupted. Civilians armed themselves with whatever they could find, forming ragtag militias. Hackers worked tirelessly to disrupt Dominion communications, while engineers scoured the wreckage of alien technology, desperate for any clue that could give Earth a fighting chance. In the chaos, there were moments of heartbreaking bravery. A squad of soldiers in Brazil held their position against overwhelming odds, buying time for thousands of civilians to escape. In India, an entire village refused to evacuate, standing their ground and daring the Dominion to attack. In Chicago, a 12-year-old boy hacked into an alien drone and used it to broadcast a message of hope across the city. Yet, for all the courage displayed, the Dominion's dominance seemed unshakable. Their forces advanced with precision, capturing major cities and establishing fortified checkpoints. Resistance fighters who attempted to engage them were either killed outright or captured and paraded as examples. In a bunker deep beneath the Appalachian Mountains, Earth's leaders convened for an emergency meeting. Generals and politicians pored over maps and data, their faces grim as they discussed their dwindling options. One by one, strategies were proposed and discarded. Nuclear strikes were deemed too risky, as the Dominion's shields would likely deflect the blasts, leaving Earth with nothing but radioactive wastelands. Amid the despair, one man sat silently in the corner, observing the chaos around him. Sergeant Liam Hayes, a sniper with more confirmed kills than anyone in the room, listened as the leaders debated. He knew the odds as well as anyone, but he also knew something they didn't. The Dominion's arrogance was their greatest weakness. "They think we're primitive," Liam muttered under his breath, almost amused. He wasn't dismissing the Dominion's overwhelming power. He'd seen their weapons and technology up close, and he knew just how outclassed humanity was. But their mocking disdain for human ingenuity, that was an opening. Liam's thoughts turned to his weapon, a custom-built sniper rifle he had used in countless operations. To the Dominion, it would look like a child's plaything, a relic from a forgotten age. But Liam knew better. His rifle wasn't just a weapon. It was an extension of himself. In his hands, it was as precise and deadly as any alien device. The Dominion had shields, yes, but Liam had been watching. He'd noticed the tiniest flicker in their defenses when they moved, an imperceptible weakness, a split-second vulnerability that only a trained eye could catch. The room erupted into another heated argument, but Liam paid it no mind. He was already planning. If humanity was going to fight back, it wouldn't be with flashy displays of power or grandiose strategies. It would be with patience, precision, and the element of surprise. As the Dominion continued their advance, mocking humanity's weapons and spirit, they remained blissfully unaware that they had already stepped into a sniper's crosshairs. Sergeant Liam Hayes had never been a man of many words. His world was one of quiet observation, patience, and precision, a life spent lying in the dirt or perched high above the chaos, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In the military, they had nicknamed him the Ghost. He was a kind of soldier who could disappear into the landscape, unseen and unheard, and leave only bodies in his wake. When the Dominion invaded, Liam had been stationed at an isolated outpost deep in the Rockies, part of a classified contingency unit tasked with remaining operational even in the event of Earth's collapse. When news of the initial battles reached them, the team had watched in stunned silence as reports poured in about humanity's defeats. Satellite feeds showed cities falling, soldiers being vaporized, and entire units routed before they could even fire a shot. Liam wasn't the kind to scare easily, but he wasn't stupid either. What he saw wasn't just advanced technology, it was dominance. The Dominion didn't just outmatch Earth's militaries. They made them look irrelevant. Tanks, jets, and artillery were little more than background noise to these aliens. And yet, as Liam sat in the cramped command center, listening to the mockery in the alien transmissions, a seed of determination began to grow. To the Dominion, Earth's weapons were a joke, and its soldiers were ants. But Liam knew something they didn't. A single, well-placed shot could do more damage than an entire brigade if aimed correctly. That night, after most of his team had gone to sleep, Liam stayed up, staring at his rifle. It was a custom-built sniper rifle he'd spent years perfecting. Every piece of it, from the polished tungsten barrel to the advanced scope calibrated for extreme distances, was a testament to his craft. This weapon had saved lives, ended wars, and turned the tide of battles. To the Dominion, it might have looked like a primitive stick that threw metal slugs, but to Liam, it was something far more, a tool of precision, discipline, and skill. The next day, Liam began his observations. Using the unit's remaining drones, he monitored Dominion patrols, studying their movements, formations, and, most importantly, their shields. The energy barriers surrounding their soldiers were formidable, but Liam had learned long ago that no defense was perfect. Through hours of painstaking observation, he noticed something, a tiny flicker in the shield whenever the aliens moved. It was so brief it could hardly be called a weakness, but to Liam, it was a window of opportunity. He spent the next 2 days making modifications to his rifle. First, he swapped out the standard rounds for custom-made tungsten carbide bullets with depleted uranium cores. Denser, sharper, and capable of piercing the toughest armor. Next, he adjusted the barrel to minimize vibrations, ensuring the bullet's trajectory would be flawless. He even recalibrated the scope to account for the peculiar refraction of light caused by the aliens' energy fields. His preparations complete, Liam packed his gear and left the outpost, heading toward the nearest Dominion checkpoint. It was a massive operation, situated in the ruins of a once bustling city. The alien soldiers patrolled the area with an air of arrogance, their movements slow and deliberate, as if daring anyone to challenge them. Civilians were herded through the streets, some cowering in fear, others glaring defiantly. Liam climbed into a crumbling office building that overlooked the checkpoint. The structure groaned under his weight as he ascended the stairs, but it held. Reaching the top floor, he set up his position near a shattered window. From here, he had a clear view of the Dominion forces below. For hours he waited, motionless and silent, watching the aliens. Their movements were precise but repetitive, and their mocking laughter echoed through his earpiece as they communicated telepathically. One particularly tall alien, adorned with shimmering gold accents on its exosuit, appeared to be a commander. It stood in the center of the checkpoint, issuing orders with a casual wave of its elongated arm. Liam adjusted his scope, centering the crosshairs on the commander's head. His breathing slowed as he prepared for the shot. The shield flicker was barely perceptible, but he'd timed it in his mind. Every time the alien moved, there was a half-second window where the shield shimmered faintly. That was all he needed. "Come on," he whispered to himself, his finger resting lightly on the trigger. The commander turned, gesturing toward a group of Dominion soldiers. The shield flickered. Liam fired. The bullet traveled at supersonic speed, cutting through the air with deadly precision. It struck the alien's shield at the exact moment of flicker, piercing through and hitting its mark. The commander's head snapped back, the golden accents on its exosuit flashing briefly before it collapsed to the ground. For a moment, everything stopped. The other Dominion soldiers froze, their expressions shifting from confusion to shock. They weren't accustomed to seeing one of their own fall, much less their commander. Liam took advantage of the chaos, firing again. Another soldier dropped, then another. Panic spread to the alien ranks. They scrambled for cover, their mocking demeanor replaced by a palpable fear. Liam moved methodically, shifting his aim with every shot. He didn't waste ammunition. Each bullet found its target. It wasn't long before the Dominion forces abandoned the checkpoint, retreating to the safety of their ships. Liam watched them flee through his scope, a grim satisfaction settling over him. For the first time since the invasion began, the Invincible had been humbled. The aftermath of the ambush rippled through the Dominion's forces. Reports of the incident spread like wildfire, and commanders issued new protocols to deal with what they referred to as primitive threats. But it was too late. The damage was already done. The Dominion soldiers, once so confident in their superiority, now moved with caution, their arrogance replaced by an uneasy awareness. Liam returned to the outpost that night, slipping back into the shadows as quietly as he had left. His teammates looked at him with a mix of confusion and awe as he sat down and began cleaning his rifle. He said nothing about what he'd done, but word of the ambush soon reached their ears through underground resistance channels. "They're calling it the Ghost Strike," one soldier said, showing Liam a shaky video taken by a civilian during the ambush. It showed the Dominion soldiers fleeing, their shields flickering as they abandoned their checkpoint. Liam didn't respond, his focus on reassembling his rifle. But inside, he felt a spark of hope. The Dominion's shields weren't perfect. Their soldiers weren't invincible, and their arrogance had made them blind to the resourcefulness of humanity. As Liam prepared for his next mission, he couldn't help but think about the Dominion's laughter, their mocking commentary about Earth's weapons. Primitive, he muttered to himself, a faint smile on his lips. Let's see how primitive they think we are when this is over. The death of the Dominion commander at the hands of Sergeant Liam Hayes sent shockwaves across the occupied zones. To the Galactic Dominion, it was an affront, an unthinkable act of defiance that shattered their narrative of invincibility. To humanity, however, it was a spark, igniting hope in the hearts of resistance fighters around the world. Liam's feet spread quickly through underground networks, whispered between huddled survivors, broadcasted over pirated frequencies, and shared on digital devices hastily powered by salvage generators. They called him the Ghost of Earth, the sniper who proved the Dominion wasn't untouchable. His story was embellished in every retelling. He had killed a dozen soldiers with a single shot. He had infiltrated their ships. He had stolen alien technology and turned it against them. Liam didn't care for the myths. All he knew was that the Dominion bled. And if they could bleed, they could fall. The Resistance was quick to capitalize on the Ghost Strike's success. It wasn't just a morale boost. Liam's observations and techniques provided valuable insight into Dominion weaknesses. Across the globe, Resistance fighters began adopting his methods. Snipers, once relegated to supporting roles, became frontline weapons. Sharpshooters armed with everything from modern precision rifles to vintage World War II era scopes started targeting Dominion soldiers and drones, exploiting the tiny flickers in their shields. Liam himself became a roving ghost, moving from one Resistance cell to another. He trained fighters, shared intelligence, and refined tactics. His quiet demeanor and relentless focus earned him respect among battle-hardened soldiers and civilian fighters alike. He didn't give speeches or rally crowds. His actions spoke louder than words. In one camp deep in the forests of Eastern Europe, Liam trained a young woman named Sophia, a former Olympic biathlete who had taken up arms after losing her family in the early days of the invasion. Her steady hands and sharp instincts made her a natural sniper, but what impressed Liam most was her unshakable determination. "You don't hesitate," he told her one evening as they lay prone on a ridge, watching a Dominion patrol move through the valley below. "They didn't hesitate when they killed my family," she replied, her voice cold but steady. Liam handed her the rifle and gestured toward the lead soldier in the patrol. "Then show them what that feels like." Sophia didn't flinch. She took the shot, the rifle's muffled crack barely audible. Through the scope, they saw the alien soldier drop, its body crumpling as the patrol scattered in confusion. Sophia exhaled slowly, lowering the rifle. "That's one," Liam said. "Let's keep going." As the weeks passed, the Dominion began to adapt. They altered their patrol patterns, implemented more sophisticated shielding technology, and deployed advanced detection drones designed to flush out snipers. Their broadcast shifted tone, no longer filled with smug mockery, but with a cold, calculated determination. Earth's resistance is a nuisance, one broadcast declared, the voice of a Dominion commander echoing in every occupied zone. You fight a war you cannot win. Your defiance only ensures your suffering. But the resistance didn't falter. If anything, the increased pressure only solidified their resolve. They had seen the Dominion bleed, and they refused to back down. One of the most significant turning points came during the Battle of the Midwest. The Dominion had established a massive outpost near the ruins of Chicago, a central hub for their operations in North America. The Resistance knew that if they could cripple this outpost, it would disrupt the Dominion supply lines and give humanity a foothold in the fight. The plan was audacious, almost suicidal. A small team of fighters would infiltrate the outpost and plant explosives, while sniper teams provided cover from the surrounding high-rises. Liam, of course, was at the forefront, leading one of the sniper teams. The night before the mission, Liam sat with Sophia and the other fighters in a makeshift bunker. The room was quiet, the air heavy with anticipation. "This isn't just about taking out an outpost," Liam said, breaking the silence. "This is about showing them we're not going anywhere. They think we're weak. They think we're primitive. Tomorrow, we remind them what happens when you push humanity into a corner." Sophia nodded, gripping her rifle tightly. "We're ready." The operation began at dawn. The Resistance fighters moved under the cover of darkness, slipping past Dominion patrols and setting up positions around the outpost. The infiltration team, disguised in scavenged Dominion exosuits, managed to breach the perimeter and plant the charges. From his perch in a half-collapsed skyscraper, Liam watched through his scope as the team moved into position. The Dominion soldiers were on high alert, their patrols more frequent, and their drones scanning every shadow. But Liam's focus never wavered. The first explosion rocked the outpost, sending a plume of fire and debris into the sky. Dominion soldiers scrambled to respond, their formations tightening as they searched for the attackers. That's when Liam and the other snipers struck. One by one, Dominion soldiers fell, their shields no match for the carefully timed shots. Liam targeted commanders and key personnel, sowing chaos among the ranks. Sophia, positioned on a neighboring rooftop, took out drones with uncanny precision, ensuring the snipers remained undetected. The battle raged for hours, the Resistance fighters holding their ground despite the Dominion's overwhelming firepower. The infiltration team managed to detonate the remaining charges, destroying key structures and crippling the outpost operations. As the Dominion forces began to retreat, Liam and Sophia continued picking them off, their shots echoing through the shattered cityscape. By the time the dust settled, the outpost was in ruins, and the Dominion had suffered its most significant defeat since the invasion began. The victory at Chicago was a turning point. It proved that the Dominion wasn't invincible, that humanity's resilience and ingenuity could outmatch even the most advanced technology. Across the globe, Resistance cells grew bolder, launching coordinated attacks on Dominion targets. The Dominion responded with increasing brutality, leveling entire cities, and deploying massive war machines that dwarfed anything humanity had ever faced. But even these acts of terror couldn't break the Resistance. Liam knew the war was far from over. The Dominion still held the upper hand, their fleets looming over Earth like harbingers of doom. But he also knew that they were no longer untouchable. One evening, as Liam cleaned his rifle in a hidden Resistance base, Sophia approached him. "We're hearing reports from Europe and Asia," she said. "Resistance cells are using your tactics. They're calling it the Ghost strategy." Liam nodded, his expression unreadable. "Good. They'll need it." Sophia hesitated for a moment before asking, "Do you think we can win?" Liam looked up at her, his eyes sharp and unwavering. "I think we've already won something more important," he said. "We've shown them what it means to fight. Now, we just have to keep fighting, until they learn what it means to lose. As Sophia walked away, Liam returned to his work, his hands steady as he prepared for the battles yet to come. The war wasn't over, but the tide was turning. Humanity, once mocked as primitive, was proving to be far more dangerous than the Dominion had ever anticipated. The war against the Dominion dragged on, brutal and unrelenting. For every victory humanity claimed, the aliens retaliated with devastating force. Cities became graveyards, their ruins a testament to the cost of defiance. Yet the resistance endured. It was no longer a scattered, desperate effort. It had evolved into a global network of coordinated fighters, bound by a shared purpose: survival. Sergeant Liam Hayes had become the face of that defiance, though he still shunned the spotlight. Stories of the Ghost spread even further, inspiring hope and fueling rebellion. He moved between continents, training new resistance cells, sabotaging Dominion operations, and relentlessly striking fear into the enemy. But despite their successes, Liam knew that humanity couldn't sustain this fight forever. The Dominion's resources seemed limitless. Their warships still filled the skies, blotting out the sun over occupied territories. Their soldiers, though diminished in number, adapted with brutal efficiency, deploying more advanced weapons and shields. Liam recognized the pattern. If humanity didn't find a way to end this war soon, the Dominion would wear them down. The opportunity came in the form of intercepted intelligence. Resistance hackers, operating out of a hidden base in South America, had cracked the Dominion communications network. What they uncovered was a blueprint for the Dominion's command hierarchy on Earth. At the top of the chain was a central hub, a massive orbital station that coordinated all Dominion operations on the planet. Destroying it would sever their communication lines and cripple their ability to coordinate their forces. It was a long shot, a suicide mission by all accounts. The station was protected by layers of defenses, from heavily armed Dominion warships to energy shields capable of withstanding a direct nuclear strike. But it was the only chance humanity had to turn the tide definitively. The resistance leaders convened in a secret bunker, a council of hardened veterans and battle-weary fighters. Liam sat silently as the others debated the plan, his expression unreadable. Finally, when the room fell quiet, all eyes turned to him. "We can debate tactics all day," Liam said, his voice calm but firm. "But the truth is, this isn't a question of if we can succeed. It's a question of whether we're willing to risk everything. If we do this, we're all in. There's no fallback plan, no retreat. But if we don't, we lose this war. Simple as that." The room was silent for a moment before Sophia, now one of the Resistance's most skilled snipers, stood. "Then we go all in," she said, "because I'd rather die fighting than let them win." The others nodded in agreement, the weight of their decision settling over them. The plan was set in motion. Resistance engineers worked tirelessly to modify stolen Dominion technology, creating crude but effective countermeasures against their defenses. Pilots trained in salvaged Dominion fighters, learning to navigate the alien ships with an ingenuity only humans could muster. And Liam, alongside Sophia and a hand-picked team of elite fighters, prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. The attack would be two-pronged. While resistance forces launched a massive assault on Dominion ground installations to divert their attention, Liam's team would infiltrate the orbital station. Their objective was simple in theory but monumental in execution: disable the station's shields and plant explosives in its core. The day of the operation arrived. The Resistance's forces were stretched thin, every available fighter, pilot, and soldier committed to the cause. As Liam and his team boarded their stolen Dominion transport, the tension was palpable. "Everyone knows their role," Liam said, addressing the group. "We've trained for this. We've planned for this. Stick to the mission, and we'll give them something they'll never forget." Sophia smirked. "Something to mock, right?" Liam allowed himself a rare smile. "Not this time." The transport launched into the sky, weaving through the chaos of the battlefield below. The Resistance's ground forces had begun their assault, drawing the Dominion's attention and thinning their orbital defenses. Still, as the transport approached the station, they were met with heavy fire from automated turrets and patrolling ships. Their pilot, a grizzled veteran named Alvarez, maneuvered the transport with precision, dodging bursts of energy and returning fire with their salvage weapons. The ship shook violently as they breached the station's outer defenses, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. "We're in," Alvarez shouted as the transport docked with the station. "Move, move, move." Liam and his team stormed out of the transport, their weapons ready. The station's interior was a stark contrast to the ruins of Earth, sleek, sterile, and bathed in a cold, bluish light. Dominion soldiers met them almost immediately, their energy weapons crackling as they fired. Liam's team moved with practiced efficiency, taking cover and returning fire. Sophia picked off soldiers with deadly accuracy, her shots finding the gaps in their shields. The team pushed forward, fighting their way through corridors and chambers filled with Dominion personnel. As they approached the station's core, Resistance hackers on the ground provided real-time updates, guiding them through the labyrinthine structure. But the Dominion wasn't about to let them reach their target without a fight. The team encountered heavy resistance, including towering Dominion enforcers clad in thick exosuits. One of the enforcers charged toward Liam, its shield absorbing his bullets like they were nothing. He dropped his rifle, rolling out of the way as the alien swung a massive energy blade. Grabbing a grenade from his belt, he activated it and tossed it under the enforcer's feet. The explosion sent the alien crashing to the ground, its shield finally giving out. "Keep moving," Liam shouted, picking up his rifle and leading the team forward. They finally reached the station's core, a massive chamber housing a glowing reactor surrounded by pulsating conduits. Sophia and another Resistance fighter, Amir, began planting the explosives while the rest of the team held off the Dominion forces pouring into the chamber. "We need 5 more minutes," Sophia called out as she worked. "We don't have 5 minutes," Liam replied, firing at a group of soldiers advancing on their position. The team fought desperately, every second feeling like an eternity. Finally, Sophia shouted, "Charges are set. Let's go." The team retreated, fighting their way back to the transport. Dominion soldiers pursued them relentlessly, but Liam and his team held their ground, covering each other as they fell back. As they reached the transport, Alvarez fired up the engines. "Get in now." The team scrambled aboard, the ship shaking as it lifted off. Through the viewport, they could see Dominion reinforcements flooding the station, trying to reach the core. Detonating in 3, 2, 1, Sophia pressed the trigger. The station erupted in a blinding explosion, the shockwave rocking the transport as it sped away. The once imposing structure shattered, debris scattering into space. The Dominion's orbital fleet was thrown into disarray, their command network severed. Back on Earth, the Resistance forces watched in awe as the explosion lit up the sky. Cheers erupted across the battlefield, the sound of hope echoing louder than the Dominion's weapons. In the transport, Liam sat in silence, his rifle resting across his lap. Sophia slumped into a seat beside him, exhaustion etched on her face. "We did it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam nodded, his expression unreadable. "We hurt them, but the fight's not over." Sophia smiled faintly. "No, but now they know what we're capable of." As the transport descended toward Earth, Liam allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. The Dominion had mocked humanity's weapons, their spirit, and their resolve. But now, they had learned the truth. Humanity was far from primitive, and this was just the beginning.